Hello everyone. I'm going to use this little teeny mini webinar to make sure that we're all on the same page about some best practices for reviewing and implementing feedback on exams or other documents. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you receive the document back from me is to make sure that your document is set to showing all markup. If you have only simple markup, you see how the track changes have disappeared. And if you show only no markup, the comments also will disappear. So you want to set your document to show all of the track changes or all of the markup that's been made. That's sort of the most important place to start. Then, a couple of things that you'll notice about Microsoft Word. When there's been a track change, yes, it shows in red on the screen, but it also has this little line in the margin here, and that line shows you that there has been a change made within that line. So any place that this appears, or like here you see how this is happening kind of in every single line, it means that there's some change. So sometimes there might even be tiny changes, like I delete a space, an extra space that you have between two words, and this is a good indicator that you're going to need to examine a line more closely. Couple of things that you'll want to do as you're going through. I really recommend that you go through question by question, change by change, rather than just accepting all the changes at once. You can do this in a couple of different ways. So for example, on this exam, the standards were listed here, which was really helpful in the draft and will need to be deleted for the final version. So I just want to highlight anything that's in red as the track change, right click, and accept the deletion. I can also highlight the redded out tracked change and go up back to my toolbar and accept the change that way. So I'm going to do that again for this right here, right click, I'm going to accept this change. So you notice that the lines and the margins also disappeared, which shows that these are finalized. Next up, when you're dealing with changes that are more substantial than, for example, just deleting a standard, I really recommend you go through the answer choices one by one. You might not want to make the change that I've recommended. So, for example, with this answer choice, let's say A looks good and B looks good. You agree with the language choices that I've made here. Great. We're going to accept these changes. Oops, sorry. Right click. We're going to accept these changes. And yes, you can do more than one at once. I'm going to accept this change. But I don't want to take this part about the medical reminders scare. I want to keep that. So I'm actually going to reject this change. And so you see that I've rejected the change that's been made. You can also do that with the right click, reject the change. So as you're going along, you're using this methodology to take changes. I also recommend that you use the comment boxes to guide you to considering the change that I've been made. So for example, in this question, I said that it seemed like more than one of the answer choices were facts, and the answer or the question asks us to identify a fact. This is for number 18. So I think that this could change to an all of the following except question. That's my recommendation. What I'd recommend for you guys using these changes or these comments is to decide whether or not you agree with me. If you don't agree, then you can change the question however you'd like. And if you do agree, you might want to just copy the language that I have here . And then you would delete your own question. As you finish with a comment box, like I understand, Schisler, I've got it, makes sense, doesn't make sense, I recommend you actually delete them as you go. Then you'll know that you've fixed that question and you're ready to move on. Lastly, when you're completely finished kind of going through question by question all the little places where you're going to need to make changes, I recommend you actually use the Control A function, which is going to highlight everything in Microsoft Word, and tell it one last time that you're going to accept any last tiny little change you might have missed, which is probably a space, and to stop tracking. And then in that case, when the tracking's turned off, that's when you're actually going to want to go through and format your final exam. I noticed, for example, that when I accepted all the track changes, question 17 is now split over a page break. So I'm going to use Control Enter to send question 17 to the next page so that it's not broken over a page. And I'm also going to check, to make sure that there's 2 spaces between each question and a space between the question and the answers, and that the spacing is all consistent, which is just much, much easier to do when the track changes are turned off. Here's another example. After all the track changes were done, this question got split over a page, so I'm going to use Control Enter and send this all to the next page. Also, if and when you're finished with all the comments and you want to be finished, you can also go to this review category and tell it that you want to delete all of the comments in the document. That will eliminate them all, get rid of this margin on the right side, and you'll be looking at the more published copy of your final exam.